Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Tenney. I am a therapist. I'm also a human with late diagnosis ADHD. I work with other women who have late diagnosis ADHD, and I'm starting this Substack as a way to share more, both in writing and in video form content about late diagnosis ADHD, helping break some of the stigma for women and helping separate some of the shame that folks often feel when they receive a diagnosis later in life. And today I want to follow up to the post I wrote that was about how goal setting and resolutions can be really challenging for women and all folks with ADHD. I speak to women as my target audience, but this is often going to be applicable for anyone with an ADHD diagnosis. So, new year, new you, resolution type energy can be really helpful and motivating, especially for neurotypical folks, even for folks that are neurodivergent. That sense of urgency can feel really empowering. And then it's like the second week of January, and maybe we've gone off the wagon. Maybe we're not doing everything perfectly. We start developing like guilt and shame and might spiral out a bit about it and then quit and then tell ourselves we're not consistent. Everyone's right about us. We can't follow through with things. And there are so many internalized beliefs that you might have about yourself when you have ADHD, a lot of them around consistency. And not being able to follow through with things. And so that can be a really pain point. It can cause a lot of shame. And then we just give up on the thing. So, what I often do when I'm setting goals for myself and when I'm working with my clients individually is help them understand, first of all, like, what is the importance of this goal? Why does it matter? So, I'm going to walk you through a little goal setting exercise that I recommend for folks who are neurodivergent based on dopamine, based on interest, based on consistency, and based on really having some of that body doubling. It's not foolproof, nothing is foolproof, but I want to give you just a little formula, and I'm going to walk through a personal example. So, last year, one of my goals was to become more fluent in Spanish. Being able to be fluent in Spanish is really important to me. I'm not going to use it in my work necessarily, but I knew I wanted to be able to connect with people. I knew I wanted to pick back up the language I learned in high school. We traveled quite a bit. I have friends that are native Spanish speakers. It really mattered to me. So, my goal was to be able to become more fluent in Spanish. So, oftentimes, if you're neurodivergent, you see a big goal, you don't break it down. Folks who are neurodivergent might not really think about breaking the goal down. So it becomes this huge goal. And we're like, great, my goal is to run a marathon, or my goal is to become fluent in Spanish, or whatever it is. And we don't get past that point. We just have this big goal and we're somehow moving towards something. So what we really need to do is break it down. So I gave myself kind of 3 buckets towards that goal that helped me identify like more specific things. One was having a Spanish speaking au pair, like a nanny, for my children. And so I really sought that out. We have had an au pair in the past that spoke Portuguese. It was amazing. She is very near and dear to me. But I was like, this is a really great way for us to have a Spanish speaker in our house. That is going to force me to speak Spanish more than I normally would anyways. The second was enrolling in Spanish lessons and classes with 2 of my friends at the time. And that was going to help me with consistency. It was also going to help with that body doubling. It was going to help with, hey, we said we were going to do this together type of thing. The third was to set up like recurring dinners and time with my friends who are native speakers so that we could practice. And these are all things that I talked to them about. Having a buddy system, having that accountability is so huge. So there were days when I absolutely did not want to go to Spanish class. There were days when I was tired. It was very early in the morning. That's my dog. And there were times when I didn't want to go, but I made the commitment, and so I stuck it out. When we're doing things as neurodivergent folks, having that body doubling, having that external accountability is so helpful. When we have low energy and low dopamine days, it's like going to keep us consistent with showing up, doing the thing. There were also some days I didn't go. I know there was at least like 1 or 2 times I actually was legitimately sick over the year. I might have joined virtually. And, did the best we can, right? It's still room for flexibility, but the goal is not to show up perfectly. It is just to show up consistently. And if we can reduce that kind of barrier of showing up consistently, we have a lot more chance of sticking it out. However, if that goal had not been important to me, I probably would have given up. I would have said, this sucks. This is too hard. I don't feel like doing it. People with ADHD also have pretty low frustration tolerance. So if we're not good at something, matched with our perfectionistic tendencies, yeah, the irony, we'll talk more about that another time, we're going to quit. We're going to give up on something. So being able to like pair pieces together really gives us more longer term success of meeting and achieving our goals. I want to hear from you. Talk to me about what you notice, what's kind of a struggle for you, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Because the typical new year, new me, flip my whole life on its head, that high we can only ride out for so long before we quit and then inevitably fall into that cycle where we don't feel good about ourselves. And I know that that's still going to happen, both for myself and clients I work with, when we maybe overly commit to something. But if we do break it down ahead of time, we can see, like, is this really actually going to be a realistic goal? Do I have time to commit to this? Do I want to commit that time? Yeah, let me know what you think. I'm going to be posting these videos hopefully a few times a week, so let me know what else would be helpful for me to talk about.